When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. India strongly rebutted Pakistan's renewed attempt to internationalize the Kashmir issue and raise objections over the Indus Waters Treaty at the United Nations Security Council. Ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the UK, where he is expected to formally sign the free trade agreement with his counterpart Keir Starmer, the cabinet has approved the deal. According to the Henley Passport Index 2025, the Indian passport has made a long jump and climbed 8 places from 85th to 77th after dropping 5 spots last year. Singapore remains the strongest passport as per this index. US President Donald Trump suggested that he might visit China in the not-too-distant future following an invite from Xi Jinping as the superpowers gear up for fresh trade talks. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has said the US notched a trade agreement with Japan that would see 15% tariffs on all goods imported from one of the nation's key trade partners. The US Embassy in India has issued a blunt warning to foreign nationals holding American visas, making it clear that arrests for crimes like assault, domestic violence, or other serious offenses could result in immediate visa revocation and jeopardize eligibility for future entry into the United States. Our top focus, India strongly rebutted Pakistan's renewed attempt to internationalize the Kashmir issue and raise objections over the Indus Waters Treaty at the United Nations Security Council. India's permanent representative to the UN called out Pakistan's duplicity on issues of terrorism and international peace. He slammed Pakistan as a serial borrower from the IMF, adding that Pakistan is steeped in fanaticism and terrorism. Listen in to the full remarks.
Recently, consequent to the gruesome terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, on 22nd April 2025, that led to the killing of 26 innocent tourists, and based on the Council statement of 25th April, where members of the Security Council underlined the need to hold perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism accountable and bring them to justice, India launched Operation Sindoor, targeting terrorist camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which was focused, measured, and non-escalatory in nature. On achieving its primary objectives, a cessation of military activities was directly concluded at the request of Pakistan. Mr. President, I am constrained also to respond to the remarks made by the representative of Pakistan. The Indian subcontinent offers a stark contrast in terms of progress, prosperity, and development models. On the one hand, there is India, which is a mature democracy, a surging economy, and a pluralistic and inclusive society. At the other extreme is Pakistan, steeped in fanaticism and terrorism, and a serial borrower from the IMF.
Meanwhile, the cabinet has approved the free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom, which will be signed in London on the 24th of July as per our sources. But that pact, officially called as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, will be signed during Prime Minister Modi's visit to London. Prime Minister Modi's 4-day visit to the United Kingdom and the Maldives begins today. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is accompanying the Prime Minister. And that trade pact actually proposes to remove taxes on the export of labor-intensive products such as leather, footwear and clothing, while also making imports of whiskey and cars from Britain cheaper in a bid to double trade between the two economies to $120 billion by the year 2030. Now, besides this expected signing of the free trade agreement with the UK, India will also raise the issue of Khalistani extremism and the return of fugitive economic offenders during Mr. Modi's two-day official visit to the country. Here's what we can expect.
A whirlwind four-day visit with two strategic pit stops, Prime Minister Narendra Modi travels to the UK and Maldives from July 23rd to the 26th, blending trade diplomacy with geopolitical recalibration. In London, Prime Minister Modi will sign a landmark India-UK free trade agreement, the first major post-Brexit deal for Britain and a big-ticket win for Indian exporters. The pact slashes tariffs on 99% of Indian goods headed to the UK while opening India's booming market to British cars, whiskey and more. 3 years of back and forth and now the ink on paper. The FTA promises to turbocharge bilateral trade and deepen the economic embrace between New Delhi and London. Beyond commerce, this visit signals stronger strategic alignment from cybersecurity to climate action and a shared vision for an open Indo-Pacific. From London, Prime Minister Modi heads to Male. He'll be the chief guest at the Maldives' 60th National Day, a symbolic gesture but one steeped in political meaning. This marks his first visit under President Mohammad Muizzu and the first since rocky diplomatic waters stirred by the India Out campaign and the island nation's pivot towards China. Once hailed as the cornerstone of India's neighbourhood-first policy, ties with Male hit turbulence. Now Prime Minister Modi's trip is being seen as a reset, a chance to rebuild trust, reaffirm maritime cooperation, and re-anchor India's strategic footprint in the Indian Ocean. President Muizzu's visit to India last year hinted at a thaw. Modi's presence now sends a strong message that despite differences, diplomacy endures. With Ridhima Kedia, Gargi Rawat for NDTV World.
Well, let's switch tracks now. An Indian citizen in his 40s was violently assaulted and partially stripped by a group of attackers in Dublin over the weekend on Saturday. Photographs show him bleeding profusely with injuries on his face, injuries on his legs and arms as well. He was taken to a university hospital for treatment, and the National Police have actually opened an investigation into this incident. The ambassador of India to Ireland, Akhilesh Mishra, meanwhile, questioned and condemned the incident on X, saying, "How can an alleged assault cause such horrible injury and bleeding?" He thanked the Irish people and the police for their sympathy and support for the victim and called for the perpetrator to be brought to justice. In other news, the strength of the Indian passport dropped 5 spots last year, but this year it has made the largest jump by climbing 8 places from 85th to 77th, according to the Henley Passport Index 2025. Now, this report actually ranks all the world's passports based on the number of destinations their holders can enter without a prior visa. And currently, India has visa-free or visa on arrival access to 59 destinations across the globe. You see, Malaysia, Indonesia, Maldives, Thailand are some countries that offer visa-free access to Indian passport holders, but countries like Myanmar, Sri Lanka and Macau, they offer visa on arrival. The latest insights from the Henley Passport Index, they reveal a significant transformation in mobility across the globe, with Asian countries actually taking the lead. Meanwhile, let's turn our attention to the neighborhood. Hundreds of protesters have rallied in Bangladesh to demand accountability after an Air Force fighter jet crashed into a Dhaka school, killing 31 people, including 25 students. The children, many aged under 12, were about to return home from the class on Monday when the Bangladesh Air Force jet crashed into their school and burst into flames. The military said the plane had suffered mechanical failure, but elsewhere in the capital, hundreds of protesting students, as you can see on the left side of your screens, some of them waving sticks. They actually broke through the main gate of the federal government secretariat, demanding the resignation of the education advisor. Listen in to what the special assistant to Bangladesh's interim leader, Mohammad Yunus, had to say.
আমাদের এই হাসপাতালে যারা ভর্তি আছে তার মধ্যে বেশ কয়েকজন আইসিইউতে আছে আইসিইউতে থাকা রোগীদের মধ্যে কয়েকজন ভেন্টিলেটর আছে কয়েকজন ভেন্টিলেটর নেই এমনকি এইচডিইউতে যারা আছেন তাদের মধ্যে বেশ কয়েকজনের অবস্থা আশঙ্কাজনক অতএব আমরা খুবই খারাপ সময়ের মধ্য দিয়ে যাচ্ছে পুরো দেশ আপনারা সবাই দোয়া করবেন
Let's now turn our attention to the United States, where President Donald Trump has said the US has agreed to a massive trade deal with Japan, one of the country's largest trading partners. The plan would result in Japan investing about $550 billion into the US and paying a 15% reciprocal tariff. Trump has expressed this in a post on social media, where he added that Japan would open its economy to US goods, including cars, trucks, rice, and certain agricultural products. Japan's chief trade negotiator, meanwhile, said in a Facebook post that he had visited the White House with the hashtag mission accomplished. To Canada now. Well, America is feeling the hangover from Canada's boycott of US liquor as sales dropped by 66% up north, a new analysis has found. In March, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario announced it would no longer carry American booze in response to President Donald Trump's tariffs on the country. So from March through the end of April, sales of US booze in Canada plummeted more than 66%, an analysis by trade group Spirits Canada has found. Reports state that figure was even higher in Ontario, the country's largest liquor market. Their sales of US alcohol dropped 80% in the same period, according to this analysis. But to break down the details for us, we have Maha Siddiqui joining us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, take us through what's going on.
Yes, the drastic dip that we have seen in the pickup of American alcohol in Canada is because of the ongoing trade war between the two countries, the United States and Canada. And despite the fact now that Canada and US, in specific, President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney are looking at negotiating a deal, the feeling against America, against the Trump administration to be specific, continues to fuel this kind of a boycott American products. It's not just limited to alcohol, though the numbers there are drastic. You will see signages of Buy Canada or Buy Canadian products all across Canadian stores for different kinds of products. And people are actually making an effort to now look at Canadian products and shun American products. And this is the outcome of the punishing tariffs of President Trump against Canada. We are already seeing 50% tariffs on aluminum and steel, 25% tariffs on auto parts, and this has had a pretty crippling effect on the Canadian economy. And now there is also a threat of 35% tariff on all products on the 1st of August unless they are able to come to a conclusion on the deal. As far as alcohol is concerned, you already pointed out rightly, between March and April, 66% dip of American alcohol sale. This is because many provinces, specifically Ontario was the first one to have said that American alcohol will go off the shelves. And then Saskatchewan and Alberta had also followed suit. However, in the case of the other two provinces, we did see them bring back some of the American alcoholic products. But overall, there was also a 13% dip in alcohol consumption, and that has impacted even the Canadian manufacturers. On the other side, Jack Daniels, manufacturer in America, said that this kind of impact that is being seen on the spirits industry is actually something they believe that is even worse than Trump's tariffs, though the Canadians would not probably agree with that.
Maha, as always, thank you so much for breaking down the details for us. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has just accused former US President Obama of leading a coup against him in 2016. While hosting the Philippine president at the White House, President Trump was asked a question about Jeffrey Epstein, which he brushed aside, no surprises there. Instead, he accused Obama of trying to interfere in the 2016 election. Trump called the Epstein investigation a witch hunt and said the real issue was Obama's alleged role in a plot to undermine his victory against Hillary Clinton. In fact, the witch hunt you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold. This is what Trump said before making a series of claims. Just listen in.
You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. We caught President Obama absolutely cold. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level.
Meanwhile, the US president suggested that he might visit China in the not-too-distant future. All that and more coming up in a moment after this very short break. Do stay tuned.
Sleepless for sports. We are reloading sports NDTV style. With the biggest comeback this season, India's OG sports journalist on India's #1 news network.
No games, just sports.
Sports coverage levels up with Boria Majumdar on NDTV.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Well, US President Donald Trump has suggested that he might visit China in the not-too-distant future, following an invite from Xi Jinping as the superpowers gear up for fresh trade talks. Washington has softened its approach to China in recent weeks. The US Treasury Secretary said negotiations in Stockholm next week will likely be aimed at extending a US-China trade truce beyond the 12th of August. Trump has adopted a more conciliatory tone towards Beijing to secure a trade deal and an in-person summit with Xi, which analysts predict could take place during the APEC summit in South Korea this fall. Trump's toned-down approach, though, has rankled some China hawks in Washington. Meanwhile, Kremlin sees no breakthroughs from third Russia-Ukraine peace talks. No timeline was given for a potential war-ending agreement. The Kremlin has said that there was no basis to expect miracles from a proposed third round of direct Russian-Ukrainian peace talks and declined to give any time frame for a potential agreement to end the war. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian president said that Kyiv has sent Moscow an offer to hold another round of peace talks in Turkey this week and that he wants to speed up negotiations for a ceasefire. The United States will quit the United Nations Culture and Education Agency, UNESCO. This is what the US State Department has said, as Donald Trump continues to pull out of international institutions. But this decision is part of Trump's pull the US out of a series of global bodies, including leaving the World Health Organization, halting funding to the Palestinian Relief Agency, and withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council as part of a review of US participation in UN agencies. The withdrawal, which will take effect in December 2026, will be a blow to UNESCO's work on education, culture, as well as combating hate speech. In other news, US National Nuclear Security Administration was among those breached by a hack of Microsoft's SharePoint document management software, Bloomberg is reporting. This report adds that no sensitive or classified information is known to have been compromised in the attack on the National Nuclear Security Administration, the agency responsible for maintaining and designing the nation's cache of nuclear weapons. And Coca-Cola has said it plans to launch a beverage for the US market with cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. This announcement, which came as the company reported second quarter earnings, follows a social media post by President Trump last week, claiming that he had persuaded Coca-Cola to use real cane sugar in its US Cola Coke, and said that the new product will use cane sugar produced in the US and will also expand its product range. Switching tracks, on the eve of the fourth test against England in Manchester, Indian skipper Shubman Gill confirmed that pacer Akashdeep has been ruled out of the match due to injury. This further compounds India's injury issues as the pacer joins Arshdeep and Nitish Kumar Reddy in the injury list. It is all but confirmed that Anshul Kamboj will make his debut in Manchester. However, what's certain is that it will be a confrontational fourth test between India and England.
Akashdeep is out of the Manchester test due to a groin niggle. And so are Arshdeep Singh and Nitish Reddy. A day ahead of the fourth test in Manchester, Captain Shubman Gill confirmed that there could be a debutant on Wednesday afternoon, 24-year-old Chennai Super Kings and Haryana bowler Anshul Kamboj.
We have seen him enough. I think the kind of skill set that he brings to the table is exactly what we want in this team, and he's there because we believe that he can win us the match. Nitish is gonna miss out the series, and Akash is also unavailable for this next match. But I think we have got enough good players in the team to be able to firstly get 20 wickets. That's been the most challenging part of the series.
India had already confirmed that this will be the third of the three promised tests that Jasprit Bumrah plays in the series. However, no doubt on Rishabh Pant's participation as a wicketkeeper and batter in Manchester.
कैप्टन क्या ऋषभ पंत विकेट कीपिंग करेंगे?
जी, हाँ जी.
Team India looks to replace Nitish Reddy with Sai Sudarshan, and that would leave them room to replace Washington Sundar with Shardul Thakur should the conditions demand. Down to 1 in the series against the English team, Captain Ben Stokes asserted that his team will respond to any aggression from the Indian players.
It's not something that we're going to purposely go out and look to start again, because then that'll take our focus off what we actually need to do out in the middle. But by no means that, we're not going to take a backward step and let any opposition try and be confrontational towards us.
Despite being a side riddled with injuries, India will go all out for their maiden test win in Manchester. Rika Roy for NDTV.
Meanwhile, British rock star Ozzy Osbourne, considered the godfather of heavy metal, has died aged 76. The Black Sabbath frontman had reunited with his original bandmates for a final show just weeks ago. While at times controversial, the Prince of Darkness became a pop culture icon through his electrifying and unpredictable on-stage presence. As Rolling Stone put it, he was an underdog everyone would want to rally behind.
Born John Michael Osborne in Birmingham, Ozzy helped invent heavy metal in the late 60s with Black Sabbath. Their dark, heavy sound redefined rock forever. He found solo success in the 80s, creating iconic hits and cementing his status as a rock icon.
I mean, people say it was great with me, but it's wonderful, the feeling I get off them kids. I love the feeling that they give me, you know. It's just feeds me, you know. It's like food for my soul, you know. And, you know, I've been saying I want to retire, and I'll never retire. I'll be always doing something with music. It's what I'm here for.
Despite battles with addiction and health, Ozzy reinvented himself time and again with hits like Crazy Train and Mama, I'm Coming Home. And in the 2000s, the Osbournes brought him to a new audience, turning the heavy metal madman into a beloved reality TV dad. Osbourne was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2019. He performed his final concert with Black Sabbath for the first time in 20 years on 5th July. With Abira Dhar, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Some say sport is a matter of life and death. The truth is, it is far more serious than that. Sport is about ecstasy and agony, about pain and suffering, about joy and much more. Some say there's no one better to tell these stories. So here I am. Join me, Boria Majumdar, on India's #1 news network.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
A 36-hour non-stop flight by a
18
small pack of B-2s. A lot of other aircraft were also involved, we know that. But let's talk about the B-2 flight itself. They took off from Missouri. 36 hours later, they landed back without once landing. They delivered their bombs 18 hours later over Iran and then came back. How was this possible? Because the Department of Defense says at no point of time on this 36-hour journey was there any reason to believe that they were either detected or reacted to?
Well, they weren't detected, because if they were, then they'd be in some serious trouble. It's one of the most unbelievable missions, one of the most historic long-range strike missions. There were 7 B-2s, which by B-2 standards is a fair number of them. There was deception in the very beginning. There was a sense that some of them were flying west across the Pacific. In fact, they weren't. And even if a few planes were positioned in one area, they were not going to be flying the Pacific route.
That was
Of
the big
course, on
distraction.
social media.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
A very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show on NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vazra. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including day 3 of the monsoon session. Are protests expected to continue? That's the big question. And in regard to Jagdeep Dhankar's, resignation, what is the real reason behind it? Of course, he's been citing health concerns. So we will get you all the details of what's really happening here on The Breakfast Show at 8 o'clock this morning. But let's just first start with the headlines. Well, before Jagdeep Dhankar announced his shock resignation as vice president, citing health concerns, several moves on the political chessboard behind the scenes may have played a role, including the impeachment of Justice Verma. Online betting scam. The Enforcement Directorate has today called in Rana Daggubati for questioning at the ED office. Do remember that it's not just him, but also Vijay Deverakonda, Prakash Raj and Lakshmi Mantru, who will be called separately for questioning over the course of the next 2 to 3 weeks. And let's just get you ahead of the Tamil Nadu polls. This is a setback when it comes to the ruling DMK. The Madras High Court has halted DMK's membership drive, now restraining the DMK from sending OTP verification messages to mobile phones of people during their ongoing membership drive. While this is, of course, the ruling party DMK in its defense says that it really does not collect Aadhaar numbers or any other personal documents for its campaign. Our voter list has been trimmed by 52 lakh polls. This is the poll body's latest figures amid controversy. This is an attempt to disenfranchise is what the opposition's big protest really is all about. Maharashtra's agriculture minister, who was reportedly playing rummy during the assembly session, ignited a fresh controversy as he referred to the government as a beggar while explaining a previous remark in Nashik. India and England begin their 4th test match in Manchester. India has been struck by multiple injury concerns. Anshul Kamboj is likely to debut for the Indian team. Ozzy Osbourne, the frontman and icon of British heavy metal, has died at the age of 76. Let's get to your top story. The 3rd day of the monsoon session of the Parliament is expected to begin soon, and this is at a time when yesterday we saw opposition protesting in both houses. Will that continue as far as the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha is concerned? Now the Prime Minister left for the United Kingdom early this morning. The opposition is likely to target the government over the Prime Minister's foreign trip, demanding that he respond in Parliament to issues like Operation Sindoor. Do remember that is the demand of the opposition, a statement by the Prime Minister, even though they've agreed to speak and debate on Operation Sindoor. But the demand really is that the Prime Minister make a statement. And now the Prime Minister has left for the United Kingdom. Now, several opposition MPs yesterday submitted adjournment motion notices in both houses seeking a discussion on the special intensive revision of electoral rolls in Bihar, a point of contention, of course, there with protests that were held. Well, we also saw, of course, a lot of people there uniting in that protest as far as, both inside as well as outside the houses over the Bihar voter list investigation and demanding a reply from the Prime Minister. They also raised the Pahalgam
terror attack and Operation Sindoor in the House. But the big question really is, as far as the resignation, this is amid the former Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar's resignation, and sources have told NDTV that a phone call from the centre snowballed into a face-off, leaving the Vice President with very little choice. While supposedly an opposition-backed notice for a motion to remove Justice Yashwant Verma, who hit headlines after that massive amount of cash that was recovered from his residence while he was away because of a fire that had broken out at his residence. Remember that when the Rajya Sabha met for the monsoon session earlier, opposition MPs moved the notice, and it's Jagdeep Dhankar, the chairman of the upper house, accepted the notice and asked the House's Secretary General to take necessary steps. My colleague Maria Shakil brings us more on this.
Sources tell us that the immediate trigger was a motion to impeach a judge. Yes, Justice Yashwant Verma, the infamous Delhi High Court judge from whose house alleged cash stash was recovered. Here's what happened. Jagdeep Dhankar announced that opposition's motion to remove Justice Verma, and he did so in the Rajya Sabha. The problem is, how did he go ahead without informing the government or the treasury benches? This move set off alarm bells in the NDA camp. Government sources say this was more than just a communication lapse.